So I wanted to talk about one of the more underrated parts of the Vancouver Canucks offseason so far. Because when it comes to, the signings, the trades, actually, have there even been any trades? No, scratch that, there haven't been. Never mind. When it comes to the guys that the Vancouver Canucks re-signed, the guys that they signed in free agency, and what the team looks like now, there's been a lot of hype surrounding the depth and the expectations for this group. But I wanted to focus your attention onto a tweet made by Jabo Vancouver from yesterday that caught my eye and sparked up a really interesting conversation on social media. Take a look at this tweet. I never paid much attention in the past, but I do find it interesting that Elias Pettersson has been almost radio silent on social media this summer. It could be a coincidence, or maybe the end of the season struggles reminded him that if he wants a cup, this team goes where he goes. And then there was another reply saying a lot of them have been silent this summer. Very quiet, Jabo replies. Now this conversation is really interesting to me, especially for somebody who makes a living posting videos on social media, the entire content creation game is kind of my living at this point. But when you consider the Vancouver Canucks hockey team, over the years we have seen guys put themselves in positions where they are kind of getting a bit of a spotlight, even if it is the off-season. Sometimes it's totally warranted because, hey, it's like COVID, for example, and there's nothing else to do but watch Adam Gaudette stream Warzone all day. Or we see guys like Elias Pettersson doing his own Warzone streams, or he's playing Scriblio with BB No Money on Twitch, or he's posting about his new fit. He's in Vancouver, he's thrifting, he's doing this, he's doing that. He's a young superstar in a big city that's really, really fun to explore if you're somebody who has a lot of money. You also had yourselves a lot of conversations and a lot of press from guys like Brock Boeser, for example. Every time he'd be suiting up in the Beauty League in Minnesota, that was always a really big deal, and we made videos talking about how Boeser was outscoring like crazy in that league. But the one season that Boeser has where he doesn't end up participating in the Beauty League, he ends up getting a 40-goal season and is one of the best Canucks players on the year. So, the fact that he's not doing that nowadays, okay, you can kind of chalk that up to a little bit of a positive. Of course, no disrespect to the Beauty League. I mean, it's for charity, it's for a great cause. Even Derek Forbort is doing it right now. But noticing the change from prior years to last year and this year for Brock in particular, that was a pretty big deal. You also had yourselves other things like Vancouver Canucks guys going out there and actually showing off their training and their off-season plans, like Andrei Kuzmenko last year. Everybody was memeing about Kuzi in 2023's off-season because the guy went over to Bali, he was practicing in Bali, and there was the video of him running up and down the stairs without a shirt on outside in the beautiful Bali wilderness, and it was like, okay, I mean, you can run up and down some stairs and you're jumping off a chair and everything, but is that really training? Is that the kind of regime that Rick Tocchet was instructing to this team that the guys should be able to do? Doesn't really look like the kind of thing that would be appropriate for some sort of a strength or conditioning capacity, and then reports came out that the Vancouver Canucks were actually disappointed and frustrated that Kuzmenko yeeted off to Bali and did all his training over there. Guess what happened? Andrei Kuzmenko then had a bad year, he got traded, the Canucks got Lindstrom, and the rest is history. Now, when you think about how the Canucks and their guys have gone really under the radar, they're really low-key. In a way, you can say it feels like they're locking in. Even for Elias Pettersson, there's reasons that Pettersson could have gone out there and made social media posts this summer. He had the hockey school program that he was teaching in Sweden that I don't think anybody actually saw on Instagram or anything like that. The only reason we know that Pettersson was a part of that program is because there was an interview done with the Swedish newspaper. We didn't know anything about that, but it was a legitimately great thing that Petey was being a part of and starting out in his community in Sweden, so you could say maybe does a lack of social media presence indicate some sort of a mental shift? Obviously, I don't want to say that I, personally, am the same as some of these hockey players that make millions and millions of dollars to be dominant at the sport that we all watch, but I am kind of in that same age range as Pettersson and Hughes and all them. And based off of what I feel about this kind of stuff and what other people in my circle of friends and circle of life feel, when you're not posting as much on social media, when you're just kind of locking away the Instagram stories and your own posts, when you just kind of shut that all down, it usually indicates you focusing on more things in life. Like, I don't want to get all too philosophical talking about Instagram stories of all things, but when it comes to a guy who was super posty about his fashion and his lifestyle and his everyday things. I mean, we were seeing Elias Pettersson Instagram posts quite a lot over the years, but this offseason there has been nothing, almost. It almost feels like the guy is a changed man. Here's a reply in that Twitter thread from Jawo Vancouver. Or maybe Elias Pettersson is absolutely disgusted by the fighting on every platform and would rather just dial it away, enjoy scooting around in Vance City. He spends his summer back home in Sweden. It is quite possible that he got tired of all the social media BS. There also was another reply here saying, probably sick of everyone making a big deal on Twitter that he's out enjoying some time off. I don't blame him. And that was also a pretty big deal as well. I don't know if you remember this, but in particular, there were some people that were really pissed off throughout the year at Elias Pettersson's performance. Now, of course, being frustrated or expecting more out of him is different from being pissed off. I do recall, in particular, when Pettersson was going through his struggles, especially in the playoffs, it was like, some people were saying, yeah, I don't want to see a single Instagram post from this guy showcasing him scooting around the city. I don't want to see a single influencer-like post where he's in a retail shop buying expensive clothes or whatever. I don't want to see any of that because the guy's not showing up in the playoffs. Like, there was some sort of an angry sentiment that I saw from some Vancouver fans in that regard. And for Pettersson to, in a way, follow it? Not, of course, directly, like, oh, he saw these comments and he's following it because he thinks they're right. Like, no, it's not that. It's just the way in which he conducts himself online is sort of aligning with what some people wanted to see out of him, which was, hey, less of the extra stuff, less of the influencer-type material, and just focus on your hockey. There also was a post here made. I read that in Thomas Drance's article, the Canucks strength coach went over to work with Petey. He's going to be dialed in next season. That's great to hear. He doesn't seem like a guy who would take his late season struggles well. And Pettersson himself, I mean, he called himself out about that in the end of season press conference, talking about how crap he had played towards the end of the year. And he did not use crap. He used the word that rhymed with hit. So for EP40, I think this is a really interesting idea that was brought up that I don't really know if it's like all too deep, but I do think it's worth bringing up at the very least. And it is the off-season, so there quite literally is nothing else to talk about here. So if there is some bigger story at bay, then we'll make a video about that soon. But for now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Elias Pettersson and the way in which he has been conducting himself on social media as of late, especially now compared to before. Does this signal any sort of a change in personality or a change in mindset in your opinion? And do you think that something like this is even really worth talking about? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.